is Long Beach Community Television.
Welcome to the 14th Annual Surfing Walk of Fame Induction Ceremony. I'd like to invite up Councilman Keith Bohr to welcome everybody from the city of Huntington Beach.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here on behalf of the mayor and some folks that are up in Monterey at a conference. We also have Councilman Joe Carcio here representing the city. And congratulations to Jax on the 50th anniversary and the Walk of Fame. Just a couple of personal notes. I used to be a city staffer, and this is my last project in 1993, 94, 95. I was helping build this place and working with Mike Abdulmuti, Ron, and Bobby, and all the guys, and they've been great supporters of the community, so we thank them and congratulations and all the success. Let's have a great day.
Thank you, Keith. I noticed that we have Doug Traub of the Visitor Bureau in the crowd with us here this morning. Kyle Lindo, head of lifeguards, he's around here someplace doing it. We have some Huntington Beach cheerleaders with us this morning to cheer on the new people. And some junior guards, I understand, came over too. So that's great. I don't see any other department heads here. I know where the rest of the city council is now. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll just call PT up and we'll go from there.
Good morning, everybody. You know how I like to do this thing was because the sun's out, right? We don't want to sit in the sun. We've all got enough sun cancers already, and me being an Aussie, I know all about that, all right? So we're going to try and get this done. We have a really special day with the boys at 55, and we want to give them their just due. And they're sitting in the front row, and so I want to keep the thing moving. So we'll get underway. As Don said, this is our 14th annual, and we've been doing this for quite some time now, and it's just great to see all the faces out there. Particularly, it really stokes me when I see inductees in the audience that have been inducted in the previous years. And of course, next year will be our 15th induction ceremony, and there will be over 100 names on the sidewalk, which is, if you think back when we started this thing, some of us didn't think we'd be here for 15 years and have 100 names on the sidewalk. So now it really truly is the Surfing Walk of Fame, and I know how special it is to be recognized because when we did have our 10th anniversary, we had this big banquet, and we at that time only had a little over 50 names, and 30 of the guys turned up at the Hyatt, and I can tell you that that night was, you know, for me, because I'm from kind of the second or third generation of surfing, for me that night was one of the most memorable nights, to be in a room with 30 guys that had their names on the sidewalk, and we can only hope next year that we get more than that, which I think we will when we celebrate our 15th. So let's get underway. We're going to start with the two guys that couldn't make it today, and just to make you laugh, they're both in bloody Australia. and as much as I tried to get both of them here, I just struck out again, and the first one I struck out twice now, George Greeno. Now, George has been inducted before, and he's one of only 3 people that have ever been inducted in 2 categories, and the other 2 being Corky Carroll and David Nueva. They've both been inducted as local heroes and surfing champions, but George was inducted the first time for surfing culture for the influence he had on movie making with great films like The Innermost Limits of Pure Fun, which was just groundbreaking in that we could see from inside the wave out, and nobody had ever done that before. And of course he had Pink Floyd as a soundtrack, so for all us 70s guys that was kind of trippy. But today what we're inducting George for, and sometimes he's forgotten for his influence as a pioneer in the design field. And if you look in your program, you can see there's a great shot of him not too far from where I grew up in Byron Bay, where he spent a lot of time and still is where he is today. And his good mate Alaric accepted his induction the last time, and he's just got off a boat with George. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring Alaric up, and he can tell you about, he was just out on George's new boat, but we couldn't get George off the boat and get George here. So Alaric, let's do this.
Thank you, PG. George sends his greetings from Australia. He's a little confused why he's been inducted twice, and he wants to know what the next category is going to be. I just spent 10 days with George on his new boat. He's redesigned a rescue boat that has a dry deck to it. And hopefully next year we'll be having it right off the beach right here. And George wanted to mention one thing. Oh, the Innermost Limits of Pure Fun has been digitally remastered. It's going to be released after the 1st of 2008 with the remastered soundtrack too. George wanted me to say one thing. He's not retro. He is so tired of people calling and wanting to talk about the past. George is the hardest working person I know. He's up every morning at 4:30, whether it's a boat project, a camera project, a gardening project, or a series of new comedic films about life on the farm. He's working every day. And he really appreciates this, and he may get on the plane someday. Thank you.
And of course, the other inductee that's not here is, for somebody like me, an Aussie, it's kind of special to even be up here and have the honor to talk about Midget Farrelly. You know, when I was a young kid in Coolangatta, we used to get the Sunday papers and it had Surfing with Midget Farrelly in it every Sunday, and I think I cut every one of them out ever. And I probably still have them somewhere, because I'm kind of pack rat on that thing. But Midget Farrelly was Australia's first surfing icon, and arguably one of the icons of surfing, period, from that time. I mean, he came over from Australia in the 60s and won at Makaha in 62. And then the first time they ever declared a real world championship where they got all the nations together and the Americans came to Australia to Manly Beach. He beat Joey and Mike and LJ, and that was the start of somebody being called a world champion. And so for that reason he was one of our icons, and at times everybody's read about it, but for us in Australia growing up with Midget and Nat, the rivalry was unheralded. It was just this thing in Australia, is there was the people who liked the midget style and there was the guys that liked the Nat style. And it's just a real honor, as I said, for me to be out here just to even talk about Midget. You know, since all those days he's been incredibly successful in our business world with a surf planks company that he started way back in the 70s, and last year with the demise of the Clark foam thing, he started up Surf Planks USA, and it's my honor to bring up Steve Cooney from Australia, a good old mate, and he's going to come up and accept on Midget's behalf.
Thank you very much. Midget definitely apologized for not being here available today. He has been very, very honored by this, and he sent a small fax email that I'll read out directly with his words, and it really says, thank you for this honor. I would particularly like to thank the people that I met on my first trip to California in 1963. Bob Cooper, Rennie and Sally Yater, Leroy and Katie Granis, Marge Calhoun, Brennan McCullen, Nancy Caton, Larry and Gail Gordon, and many others, some no longer with us, who made me feel very welcome and introduced me to a whole new surfing culture. To this day, I value what I learned from these people. Thank you, Midget Farrelly.
Okay, so now we get to the portion of the show where everybody's here. And we're going to start off with what I think is probably one of the most special things that we've done since we started this thing, and it's to honor the real pioneers of the culture of surfing, if not in America, but right here at the pier, there's no question. In 1955, before there was any surf magazines, or any surf contests, or any of that kind of stuff, there was a bunch of guys who loved to ride waves. I don't think even there was a surf shop. I don't think Gordy opened the doors till 56. He might yell at me if I'm wrong. but I think I did my homework on that. And so a group of guys got together to start the HB Pier Surf Club. And this board here, which is in the Surfing Heritage Foundation Museum down in San Clemente, we used as the basis for today's honouring of these guys, the pioneers of surf culture in the city of Huntington Beach and arguably in Southern California. Now, you know, when in doing this, we were having all sorts of debates. Whose name's not on there? Or did we get the spelling right? Oh my God, we tried. You have no idea what we went through with this process. I went back to as many magazines as I could because they only go back to 60, so to try and make sure if I could get the spellings right. Chuck Lennon was instrumental in this process. John Van Offlin right here. Those two guys need a round of applause because they were instrumental in this happening. And it was really motivated too by a guy, Rocky Freeman, who just passed away on us just 3 weeks ago. And it was motivated by that, and we said we need to honor all these guys because these guys were the guys that started out here. And I've now lived here for 30 years in Huntington Beach, and I've got to know a couple of those guys, like Frank sitting right here. You can see him every day over here having a cup of coffee. And the Sorellis are a real part of the fabric. And I've got to know Dick Metz sitting right here, who is probably one of the best storytellers I know. And we're going to get him up here to introduce everybody because he's one of the best storytellers. So I'm going to get Dick to come up, and also Chuck Lennon, who's already in our Walk of Fame for being the local hero, along with Gordy, also inducted as a, we'll leave Gordy in the audience, but if Dick, you could come up right now. We're going to introduce each one of the guys that are here today. I think we have about a dozen of them.
Thanks, PT. Well, obviously, I've been asked to talk of the early years. I think it's because I'm probably the oldest guy around here. But I'm really sorry that the early leaders of this group are no longer with us. And those are guys like Rocky Freeman that you mentioned, Blackie August, Les Whalen, all great watermen and great party guys, too. They knew how to have a party. And they were really the bread and butter of the club, and they got us started, got us interested, and they were the enthusiastic directors of it. So I'm really stoked that the city is giving them some recognition, what they deserve so much, and here in their hometown especially. So if you haven't pulled the hook on me yet, Don, now I can get started. Well, you know, every once in a while, a really unique group of characters come together. It just seems to happen in certain places. And that's what happened here in Huntington Beach in 1955. Now, these guys not only loved to surf, but they were a loosey-goosey bunch that just wanted to have a lot of fun. And so they'd meet under the pier where a few boards were being made. Boards were stored down there, and we'd lay down there and plan the activities for the day. So this all happened under the pier these early years. And, you know, like today, if you have a club, it's got a board of directors, it's got a mission statement, and a president and all this stuff. I mean, we were into shortcuts, man. We didn't want any of that stuff. So we eliminated all that. We had no officers, and we had a real short credo. And that was go surf in the morning before it blew out. In the afternoon, somehow snag a bottle of wine and try, because that usually didn't work. And then we'd plan a party. Or we were always trying to con somebody into or out of something. And these guys were masters at a con job. So they were always working on food and booze and everything. So I came from Laguna in 1955, and right around the corner, my dad had a liquor store called Surf Liquors, and he wanted me to come up and run it. And so when I came up to run the liquor store, this made it a lot easier for these guys to work their good work. So, you know, I didn't know anything about running a liquor store, so about 8 in the morning I'd show up, open the store, and I had a guy named Johnny Miller from San Diego that made pre-made sandwiches, would deliver them. And they were called Millers or Fillers. Well, that's all that the surf club needed to know, because this was going to be their food for the day. So before I got there, the box would be open, and there'd be little notes that say, "Sorry, sucker, I'm out of money." And put this on my tab, I'll pay you next week. Well, I mean, I never saw a tab on any of these guys. So right away, they had the food for the day. And so I'd get the store open. I had one employee named Betty, and she'd come to work. I'd get my board and go down in the pier. And as soon as I paddled out, all the Grims, and I think a couple of them are here right now, they would come in and distract Betty and steal some wine for the afternoon blowout. those early years was we had pinball machines that paid out in cash. And so, of course, some of the older guys, they figured out real quick how to tilt the machine just right, and you bang up a big, huge score, and then it's like hitting the jackpot in Las Vegas. You got all this cash. So one of the great guys of all that is here today, Frank Sorelli, the master tactician on the bowling. And actually, I want to tell you, he retired very early on that pinball machine. I don't think he's worth a lick in 40 years. So for the next 3 years, the Surf Liquor Store became the club headquarters. Well, you can see why. We had free food, free booze, and plenty of cash to go to the bullfights every Sunday in Tijuana. So it was a win-win. And I couldn't beat them, so I figured I'm going to join them and help them drink my own wine and spend some of the money at the bullfights in Tijuana. So this went great for 3 years. We all had a great time. Everything's having fun, and we're working out real good. And all of a sudden, in 1958, unbeknownst to me, and I'm there every day, the store goes broke. I'm out of a job. My dad is pissed off. And finally, the Huntington Beach guys had to get a job and pay for food and booze. So that really kind of ended the club as far as any meetings were concerned. So I sold a few things I had left over, and I left on a 3-year surfing safari. But the rest of them, it's amazing. We've stayed great friends for 50 years and still having a lot of fun. So here they are over here. Chuck, you got the list? Oh, it's right here.
All right, short stories. Right here, Don Thomas. Don Thomas, he sails the world with a beautiful 45-foot slope. He's around the world. He's wearing a makeup Clark sandals here. That's a great buy from the Panama. We got the great Don Stewart here, good friend of Rocky Freeman, entrepreneur, lifeguard in Huntington Beach, lifeguard in Newport Beach. We started surfing together back in '54 down north side of the Trail Hobie boards. Come up here, let's go. We got Jimmy McGallrath right here. Good friend of Chuck Hansley, the boys at Long Beach State back in 1966 to 68, working on their credential. I was working on to graduate. Jimmy McGallrath, great surfer from Seal Beach. We have Frank Sorelli, started surfing back in '45. Frank Sorelli was a tight end on the Huntington Beach High School football team. Harley LaBard was the quarterback. Frank was a tight end catching all the passes. He's a lifeguard. He could jump the pier, board surf. He was like the chief of the lifeguards when the surf was up that day. Frank Sorelli, great surfer. Got Russell Jordan here. Russell Jordan, one of the greatest athletes to graduate out of Wilson High School, went on to great credentials in high school and college, a retired school teacher, wonderful surfer, just a great person. Great surfer, Russell Jordan. We have George Strimple. George Strimple. Mr. George Strimple. Mr. George Strimple was discharged from the U.S. Navy. He still knows his service number. I was 4398 410. I was only a fireman apprentice. He was a first class. Anyway, George Strimple discharged in '47 with Rocky Freeman, entered the class at Orange Coast College, and he started making surfboards with Rocky Freeman. But the story goes on. There's a great name called Bob Hammerhead Gravies, the Hammerhead. We have stories in the tent about Hammerhead later on. Okay, we got Harlow LaBard here. Harlow LaBard, he lifeguarded back in 1965, but he started lifeguarding back in '51. School teacher from Huntington Beach High School. Great quarterback, could always call the audible at the line, passing the ball to Frank Sorelli, known as a tight end. If we would have had Russ Jordan back there in '48, we probably would have won the CIF for Huntington Beach. Russ was a world-class sprinter, but good guy. You are a good guy, Russ. Anyway, here we go. That's one more. We got the one and only. We got two more. Mike, back to Harlow LaBard. They lost the CIF championship to Loyola in 1948. But anyway, more stories go on. Michael Whalen. Michael Whalen, he is the son of the Les Whalen, who You hear the water bottles we have now. He had a famous Boda bag. It was always with water, not W-I-N-E wine, but for the people underage, we had our hot chocolate. For the boys over 21, they had their wine and refreshments off the end of the pier. Les Whalen is deceased up in heaven, shaping boards with all the conclave. The shapers up there. Mike Whalen probably rode one of the biggest waves ever at Surfside Jetty. Probably had 20 feet at the end of the jetty. It's like Sunset Beach. Michael Whalen and Les Whalen. We got two more left. Two more left. I'm going to call up the one and only, not yet, Lloyd Murray. Lloyd Murray here. Lloyd Murray is in the Boys of Huntington Beach. As I say, people, there's a lot of members. His karaoke club is great. We're going to have a reunion. If I can have the Mele Kalikimaka Surf Museum in San Clemente, we'll have a reunion in 2008, if they're for that. Matt, you got to pay the bill. Thank you. But now we have Lloyd Murray here, engineer, great surfer. These are the boys of 55 that really rode the big waves. But Lloyd Murray, just a wonderful, wonderful surfer and great inspiration, family man. Used to raise Great Danes. And Lloyd, nice having you here, Lloyd. You're a wonderful person. Great surfer. Now, we got one more person here. His name is Gordy Dwayne. Gordy Surfboards. Now let me tell you, back in the 50s. In the 50s, we had Joe Quigg in Newport Beach. We had Gordy Dwayne in Huntington Beach. We had Hap Jacobs and Velzy and Jacobs in Hermosa Beach. Then you had Reynolds Yater in Santa Barbara. Dave Sweet hadn't come along yet. Then we had a famous shaper down in La Jolla, hadn't come in, named Mal Nelson. All these shapers would be at Velzy and Jacobs in San Clemente. Gordy had his boards here in 1952, 53. I had a Gordy board. We all rode Gordy boards here. If you had another board, you had to ride your Gordy board here and take the other board down to the bluffs. So I was involved in that when I got my Jacobs third board. I was with Chick Evanson and Blackie August right over there. They're at the Buzz Inn. They come over and said, why don't you ride a Jacobs board? This is Gordy Town. So I took the board out. I liked the board. I came back and they said, how about a Mai Tai? Well, I don't drink Mai Tai. I just have orange juice. Then I went out again. I came back in, make me a Mai Tai. I'm going out again. Then I went out again. They took me to the Buzz Inn, warmed me up with a bowl of chili. So I got my first Jacobs board ordered with Hap Jacobs. So I'll go pick the board from Hap Jacobs, come back in the Gordy Town. I'm carrying suspiciously on the top of my car with TV guide wire, my Jacobs board. Then what happens? Roy Crump drives by. You got a new board. How come it's not a Gordy? I rolled the window down and the board came off the car. So ends my Jacobs board. But Gordy, you're a wonderful, wonderful shaper. You taught me how to surf that from 226 Nieto with Dave Francie, who's not here. Gordy was out at San Onofre, and I paddled out, and he looked at me, why don't you put your legs together and get, you're too close to the board, you look like a pregnant frog. Put those legs together. Gordy had his bride, reached in the back pocket, combed his hair, but Gordy's a wonderful craftsman, great shaper, a wonderful friend. I feel honored to be with this group. And the one and only Rocky Freeman upstairs, we're here to honor the one and only Rocky Freeman. I want to give a big hand for the CEO, Captain Rocky Freeman. So concludes my story. Thank you very much.
Well, let's just, for everyone to get a chance, I'm going to get out of the way so you can just get a photo of all these guys. If Froggy could wheel Gordy over and we can get everybody in the shot. We want to get a shot because with our 15th next year, we want to make sure we get a couple of photo opportunities today, that we get a photo of all these guys because, you know, it's just, as I said, a really special moment to have these guys here. They realize that they were all surfing out here before most of us were thought of. Okay, so I'm going to step out of the way. Let's get a couple of pictures and then we'll continue.
My name is Chuck Lennon. I was born in 1936. Goodbye.
How about let's hear you from the cheerleaders saying great for the guys at 55.
Okay, now we get to our actual, this was the honor roll to honor the boys of 55, and they'll all get together later on for lunch. But now we get to our inductees for the day that are present with us, and we'd like to start off, I'll start with, today it's going to be for surf culture. And I have a real connection to this family. I've actually known the Maestro family since I first got here in the 70s, and at one time I was one of the Bronze Aussies and we rode for Body Glove. And this family has been around the sport of surfing since just like the boys of 55. And if there's a description for a waterman, the watermen were Bob and Bill Maestro. They were the watermen back when it all counted. I mean, they did it all. You did everything. You dove, you rode surfboards, you did everything that had anything to do with the water. And of course, they were incredibly influential in the development of the modern wetsuit. And I think I'm right in that at some point in time, along with all of that, and dive and surf and Bev Morgan up there, I think Duke Wood came up with the name Body Glove. I think I'm right in that, and it's become one of the synonymous trademarks in our industry. And I got to do a bunch of different things with the families through the years. And just last year, Bob's brother Bill passed away, and we had this great day up in the South Bay where we honored him. And the two brothers were just so great, and I know Bob today still has the same passion that he had, like his brother Bill, to be in the water, ride waves, hang out with surfers. They're just like all of us. You never lose that feeling. And so, in honoring the Maestro family for surf culture and their contribution to our sport, I'd like to bring up Bob Maestro. Woo!
Well, I consider it as a great honor. I'd like to get Bill's son up here because he was instrumental. He's about as close to his dad as I'm closer. I look more like him, but this guy is the exact image of his dad. It's a great honor to receive this, and I'm really happy that I wish it could have been a year ago when my brother was alive. But he's up there looking down on us, and he's probably surfing some waves and doing some diving and riding in a submarine, which we like. We have a few submarines, and we've had a great life, and this is really a great honor. Here you are, Bill.
I'm really proud of my dad and feel very fortunate that I got an identical copy, my Uncle Bob, to hang out with still. So thank you very much.
Okay, so now we get to Woman of the Year. And this Woman of the Year is absolutely amazing. She's actually the best grandma surfer I know in the world. She's got a bunch of kids, and every year I go back east to the Easter Surfing Festival, and she's actually just a little bit older than me. And every year I go back there, she's in the finals in the open division of the women's. She's won it a number of times in this decade. I think she got second this year. Is that right, Mimi? But back in the 60s, when our first woman of the year, Joyce Hoffman, won the world championships down in Oceanside, this girl, Mimi Munro, was 14 years of age and finished third in the world. She won numerous East Coast championships, and she was the first icon of women's surfing from the Eastern Seaboard. She just loves surfing. I mean, when I go back there for these contests, I can't believe how enthused she is. She comes down for the contest and she's immediately asking me about, what are the waves doing? How's it going on? It's like, my God, it's still the 60s. She's aged very gracefully, like a good bottle of wine. And even when she got here yesterday, she called me up. She goes, you got any surfboards? I need some surfboards. Can you bring them down this afternoon? I said, sure, Mimi. So I go down to the Hilton with some surfboards for her and her daughter, and I guarantee you they've been out this morning, right, Mimi? You didn't go? Oh, come on. Anyway, it's my great honor to bring up the icon of East Coast women's surfing, Mimi Munro.
Good morning. This is a great honor, especially to join the Surfing Walk of Fame members already. The women whom each of them I greatly admire and inspire me to always serve. I think I'll always, forever and always be grateful to my mom and dad, who cultivated a love and respect for the ocean in me. That love and respect I have passed on to my children, my grandchildren, and any other young people that are open and want to know. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of a surfing family. I have three of my children and several grandchildren are surfers. I still surf as often as I can. I still get excited when I know there's a wave and I got the surf band loaded up and I'm heading out for a day of surfing. I used to, when I could, I'm a massage therapist and have my own business, I'd call up and cancel. If I was riding by the approach to the beach and saw waves, it's like, oh, call them up and I've got a family emergency. I have to reschedule. I can't do that so often anymore because I have more responsibilities that I can't do that. But I still get in the water, take my board to work, go after in the summer when it's still light. I still ride a longboard. My passion is still nose riding. I love it. I hoot and I holler when I'm out there. And one of the funnest things to do is go down to a crowded spot like Ponce Inlet and over at First Second Peak where all the young agro surfers are, and paddle over and they see this old lady paddling in, on a longboard and pick out a wave and they'll come and laugh. Well, they just don't even act like I'm there. So, take off and they take off in front of me and all of a sudden they feel that longboard, the wind of that longboard, kind of at their back of their neck. Because I've had to kick out because they're in my way, and that's the last time they take off. And it's thrilling. Then I take another couple waves, and then I pedal back over to third, fourth peak and enjoy myself where there's not too many people in it. But it's a lot of fun because they need to understand they're not the only ones in the water and that people of all ages surf, and especially women of all ages surf. That's hard for them to accept sometimes. I sometimes, if I haven't been at the ocean in a while, it brings tears to my eyes to put my feet in the water with my board in hand and head out. I'll never lose that feeling, I hope. And I'm trying to have as many memories as I can so there comes a day that I can't paddle out. then I've got all those memories. And I told my kids, if I get real difficult when I get older, just on a nice, outgoing, dark tide, just put me on my board and just push it really hard. And by morning, I'll be gone. That's what a way to go. Well, it's my hope that each of us can live every moment of every day to make our Mother Ocean clean, healthy, and free. Thank you.
It's just great to hear that spirit. I hope that, just like Mimi, it's people like her and the boys of 55 that inspire all of us to stay young. And I think that when we stay in the water, we stay young. And that brings us to our last induction for the day. And it's kind of a little bit personal for me in that I came to Huntington when Scott Farnsworth was just a little Grammy. And one of the first things that I got involved in when I was here was the NSSA as the executive director and the coach of the national team. And Farney and one of his best friends, Gary Clisby, that I think's out here somewhere today, they went to Marina High and they were part of that whole national team process. And we did some incredible stuff together. Me as a not so old coach at that time, and one of the first things that we did memorably was we went to Australia in 1982, and Tom Curran won the World Championship in my hometown, which the Aussies never forgave me. And then Scott was getting better, and we went on a legendary trip to Indonesia. I took 15, 16-year-olds to Bali. This is like 1982. And we spent 2 weeks living in Kuta and surfing Uluwatu when you still had to get a BMO out and then walk for a couple of miles. And if you had a couple of pennies, you paid the little Indos to carry your stuff for you, because by the end of the day, you were so tired you couldn't walk back, but there was no other way back. And Scott was part of that. And then in 1984, the World Championships were going to be on right here at the pier. And the same World Championships that I was talking about midget. And we had a team of young Americans, of which Scott was one. There were some great names on this team like Mike Parsons and Brad Gerlach, and a lot of guys that went on to careers in the sport and now are all members of the industry. And we upset and shocked the Aussies, who had all these names that were kind of already knew them, the Damien Hartmans and Gary Elkertons and everything, but it was a young group of Americans led by Scott with Doug Silver and Richard Wolcott, and we won the gold medal. And Janice Harrigan also, who today's running NSSA, was part of that team. And Scott won the gold medal individually in that team. And as a result, there's no better definition of a local hero than Scott Farnsworth. And with that, I'd like to bring Scott up to the stage. As long as you like. No, gone.
Oh, boy. First of all, I just want to thank the City of Huntington Beach and Jackson, PT, and everybody on the committee here for putting this thing together. This is an unbelievable honor. And, you know, I found out I got nominated a few years back, and every year I send in about 500 ballots for myself. And I don't know if they finally, you know, got the hint and I broke them or something, but anyway, it's an incredible honor. I just want to say thank you for having the thing in the first place to give a platform for us to say thanks and just be honored. I know right now you're probably looking at your program and you're wondering, that's not the guy I see on the cover. it's kind of cruel that PT was involved in this. I think he picked that photo just to give you guys something to laugh about. But I'll tell you the story. I was surfing Ponce Inlet, and I took off on this old lady, and that's what happened to my hair. And I'll never do that again. I honestly didn't know it was you, I swear to God. Anyway, it was halfway there anyway, so I thought I'd just keep shaving it ever since then. But honestly, when I heard I was going to be inducted, it was kind of like, what do I say? I should tell a story or something. And really, every time I thought about what I wanted to say, it really just came back to where everything I could think of, every milestone that I've had, or every great thing that's ever happened to me, or whatever, it always was surrounded by people supporting me and people that helped me and people that just gave me love and respect and support. And so really all I wanted to do was just thank at least a few of those people, starting with my dad, who got me into the sport as a kid and made my passion for it. He's right over here in the audience, Kent. Right next to him, my mother, who was an unbelievable taxi cab service until I was 16 and could drive. I have no idea how many miles she put on the Country Squire station wagon that we had. That was dating myself right there too, wasn't it? And then kind of moving on to PT and Ian Cairns and Pat Cairns in the NSSA days that were just unbelievable support, great coaching, and more than just surf coaches. So thank you, PT, and Ian and Pat, I don't know if you're out there, but thank you. And as we move on, just also in the program here, you'll notice on another picture that doesn't look like me. I'm wearing a body glove wetsuit, and that was my very first wetsuit sponsor, and the boys are here, and they supported me as well. Carl Hayward was my first surfboard sponsor from right here in Huntington. Also a legend in a lot of ways. Going on tour was another huge support. Like you get on tour and you're a competitor, but there were certain guys that were so embracing and so just guys that I had looked up to, guys I was watching surfing as a kid, that when I got on tour was thinking like, these are like the big guys, the guys like Tom Carroll and Martin Potter and Sean Thompson and Rabbit, guys that were so nice and so cool to just welcome you onto the tour, and that was a huge support. Moving on from there, getting into the working world, the guy that gave me my very first job, who sort of saw something and was willing to trust in me a little bit, Dan McInerney. I don't know if Dan's here or not, but Dan, thank you for giving me my start. Mike Parnell and Jim Gennard gave me a shot at Oakley. And last but not least, the crew at Quicksilver, which is where I work now. They're based right here in Huntington Beach, and they've just given me a great opportunity to work with an awesome company, and I love the people there. I love the environment. The culture is unbelievable, and that's just an awesome place as well. Most of all, when I think of Huntington, I just think of surfing contests out here and the basic support that I've always had from people surfing at the what is now the U.S. Open was the OP Pro, and having everybody lined up on the pier cheering me on as the local guy and everything. And so without further ado, I just want to say thank you to all of you, the citizens of Huntington Beach, for supporting me and cheering me on. I'm unbelievably honored. I don't know what else to do except say thank you.
So that brings a close to our 14th induction. As I said earlier today, I hope you can all join us next year for our 15th, and it's going to be very special. We'll be over, as I said, 100 names on the sidewalk by this time, and it's going to be a special year. But just one final call out to the boys of 55. I think that we all owe you a lot. From point of view is that look where we're at today. As Dick said, when there wasn't any rules or regulations when those guys started. They just thought it up as they went along. And here we are standing today in front of multi-million-dollar retail empires and brands that are on the stock exchange. And I think it's worth a round of applause, because it wouldn't have happened without those guys. Thank you.
That concludes our program for today. We do have lunch across the street honoring the people here today that we did. There are a few tickets left for those of you that want to try and get in. They're $40 a piece. We're limited to 200 over there, so come on over and enjoy it and have fun. We also have our collector item coffee table book of 10 years for sale over here at a special price, and a few t-shirts. So thank you all for coming this morning. Have a great day. And I want to thank all of our sponsors that we have for helping us put on the Surfing Walk of Fame each year. You know, we can't do it without having the sponsors who put in their money so that we can honor the surfing industry. Thank you. You're on.
Really special thing to get out to watch it. So I'd just like Chad to come up here, say a couple of quick words on behalf of Nixon, and he's going to help me get out some watches. Say thanks to the people that started the stuff and the passion and the influence for something that's important to all of us here and everyone out there on the beach. So take more from thanks for the whole industry, not just for Nixon. We all appreciate what you've done for us. Thank you very much. So we're going to start with the boys of 55 and where's Harlow? We've got a nice watch for Harlow, and Mike Wallen can come up for his father. Harlow. This is better. Frank Sorelli. You're retired, right, Dick? Lloyd Murray. Is Lloyd still here with us? Lloyd, we're going to wheel you up here, or you want us to bring it over there? Dick's up here. Don Thomas. You can stick around, yes. Bloody Dwayne. I saw Bloody around still. Tim McElworth. Timmy went home. We'll get his watch to him. Chuck Lennon. I know Chuck's here. I'll make sure he doesn't get near the microphone, guys. Don't worry. I put the egg timer on him last time. It only went off once. Right, Chuck? Don Stewart. He left. And Russ Jordan. Russ still in. Okay, man. You guys are from the Surfing World Plane. You're officially retired. Dick wants to say something here.
PT, this has been a real emotional day, and I don't know about you guys, but it has been for me. And for 40 years, I finally decided I'm going to make a confession today, but I want Sorelli especially to be here for this one. These guys were all good con guys in their day on the earlier stories I hope you guys picked up on. And I knew they were working me pretty good, but I was drinking some of the wine they were stealing from me and going to the bullfights with some of the money they were winning. So I felt it wasn't too bad, but I decided to have a raffle about every 2 or 3 weeks. I'd get a gallon of whiskey or vodka and raffle it off. Most of the guys that would buy the raffle tickets were the guys that were winning all the easy money on the pinball machine. So I just want you to know that this is fessing up after all these years. I rigged those raffles. And to the best of my knowledge, nobody from Huntington ever won anything. It was always a guy that was out of town, a friend of mine from Laguna, and I got that money back. So the moral of the story is, if you're a con man, don't try and con another con man.
And a little earlier in the ceremony over the other side, I mentioned that today, with regards to the boys of 55, it was really motivated by Rocky Freeman. And so I wanted Frank Sorelli to come up, and he wants to tell just a little story about Rocky Freeman, which Frank agrees that maybe it was being the most influential guy that was here at the pier and surfing. So Frank?
Rocky first surfed here in 1940. I think he was 12 years old. George, if I'm not mistaken, it was 49 when we were setting out there late Saturday afternoon, and Simmons come paddling out. Simmons was an old surfer and probably the only guy that surfed up and down the coast. He was on a balsa board. George told me this morning it was a hollow balsa board. It was glass. Rocky Monday went to General Veneer in Downey, bought some balsa wood, brought it home, went to the lumber yard on Lake Street. Not many of you will remember the lumber yard on Lake Street. Bought the glass, had to buy the callus and all that stuff in a drugstore. In the early part of 1949, Rocky was the first one to ride a glass balsa surfboard. And not only that, he started the first surf club in Huntington Beach. So wherever he is now, I know he's having fun and he's looking down at us. In the old days, Rocky and I were up on the pier. We were lifeguards at the time. The old pier on the corner of the quay, the darndest thing I ever seen. These Ashbrooks on the left going to go through the tee, and somehow he got screwed up and missed the first piling of the tee. He never moved. He just slid up the board and hit the piling face first. And then slid down the line. Rocky and I had to go out off the pier and actually drag him in. The most fun in those days was headquarters was on the pier, and we had tweezers and put all the barnacles out and then poured them with Thylake. You younger guys don't remember the Thylake, but it's stung. So that was it. Lennon was there, he was a little kid. But that was the story of that.
I'll say hello, my name is Chuck Lennon. Now, this story starts in 1951. Three surfers, Joe Riddick, Bob Applegate, and Dean Ashbrook, were surfing the boards at 72nd Street. They go to a famous lifeguard station named 72nd Street Hammerhead Grabbage. Why do they call him Hammerhead? He was a lifeguard there. There's a fishing boat outside the 72nd Street jetty in Long Beach. Next to the Larry was the Sylvie's jetty. Story goes on. Fishing boats out there. Gravis looks outside. There's a rescue. He paddles out. The fishing boat had a big hammerhead in there. So Hammerhead says, I gotta make a simulated rescue. So it says, throw the hammerhead. You jump in. We'll fake the rescue. I'll kill the hammerhead. And we'll have the hammerhead quote in the paper in the press telegram the next day. Hammerhead grabbed his lifeguard, killed shark. Okay, now, it goes back to the board. Hammerhead Gravis made the board that Dean Ashbrook crashed into the pier. It's 10-8, balsa wood board, redwood rails. So they appear at 72nd Street to christen the board at Huntington Beach. Three surfers, Applegate, Dean Ashbrook, and Joe Riddick. In 1951, Mighty Joe Young was the movie hop. Gravis says, your new name, Joe Riddick, is Mighty Joe. Then he looked at Dean Ashbrook, the great athlete. He says, you're called Man Mountain Dean. Bob Applegate, we're just a taxi cab driver. They brought the board down. Sorelli's waiting, LaBard, and Freeman. Joe Riddick calls up about 8 o'clock, and Joe would say, what time is it? And Met would say 8:10, which means it's 8 foot and 10 knot variable on the wind. So they pound the board up. Dean Ashbrook pounds the board up, the board that Frank tells you about. Hits the pier, comes down, Messiah Lake, instead of the Caricone, cruisers taking the barnacles out. They jumped off the pier, made the rescue. The board today is on display in the Surf Museum in San Clemente. It's the Bob Graves Hammerhead board made for Joe Riddick, Dean Ashbrook, and Bob Appleby. End of the story, my hourglass is up now. Thank you.
Good job, sir. Now, just so you can see how cool these watches are, they're the model from Nixon called the Player, which is appropriate. These guys were all players. So I'd like to get Alaric Valentin up here to get one for George. He'll get it to him in Australia. Bob Maestro. I have one here for the family, Bill's family as well.
Billy, you're in.
Billy, you want to come get it?
Yes, I'll take you. Right.
It's the small player, Miggy, so it's the girls one, okay? You asked me whether they had a girls one. It's the small player. And finally, where's that local hero, Barney? He's talking surf stories with his dad, Ken. Barney, you gotta come get your watch, means you've retired from Quicksilver.
To my lovely wife and my two beautiful daughters,
We'd like to thank Nixon, we'd like to thank everybody all the companies that participated, that are big partners with Jax, who's our patron for the Walk of Fame. We thank everybody for turning up today. We even had Roy Turner come all the way from the East Coast from Surf Expo, just to honour our inductees today. Of course, that's a big thing for Roy and the Surf Expo crew, and Mimi, of course, being inducted out here today. And I think
This is Long Beach Community Television.